when you're a rich person and you like to take a shower. 38 gallons doesn't last very long. And they have all this water, and it's really good water. Up high, Pacific Northwest. Some comes in from Canada. A nice country, by the way. Comes in from Canada, and it comes all the way through California, and they're restricting it. You even have the half pipes, the half pipes, the cut pipes. Big ones, bigger than this room. And they're going all the way down, and they're bone dry, and they could be loaded up with water. No, but isn't it incredible that they don't do it? And it's to protect the Delta smelt. It's a fish that's doing poorly anyway. But I said, how are you protecting the Delta smelt by not giving it water? It's a fish.
How are you protecting the Delta smelt by not giving it water? It's a fish. Welcome, everyone, to Toxically Masculine Tuesday on Real News Live. Oh, my God. We actually have some common fucking sense back in the White House. How are you protecting the fish by not giving it water? It's a fish. I saw that today, and I died.
You don't want to spoil them, Mike. You don't want to spoil the fish.
Yeah, you don't want to. Fish can get really, really snooty when you spoil them with, water. All right, guys, welcome to Real News Live. It is a Toxically Masculine Tuesday. I'm your host, Mike Barrett, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Drinking tonight, Crown Royal Black in celebration of the inauguration, the 47th President of the United States, Donald John fucking Trump, bringing some brains and common sense to the White House after 4 years of insanity. Welcome to the show. I'm joined, as I always am, by the man on my immediate right, the guy you cannot spend 4 hours in a car without, first of all, burning the hell out of the tires, driving the wheels off the car, and getting smarter. Dr. Brooks Agnew, somewhere in the Carolinas. You're going to have a visit from President Trump on Friday. Brooks, how are you tonight, and what are you drinking?
I'm doing great, and I am drinking my hydrogen water, so you can see the
bubbles.
Yeah,
I had some of that last week. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, as Kiss once put it in Psycho Circus. The man directly below me, the intrepid reporter, TV's Blake Wally in Tennessee, somewhere east of California. Blake, blah, blah. Too many B names on here. Yeah. Blake, how are you doing, and when does the strip club open tonight?
I'm doing great, Mike. Actually, the strip club's not open until 11 tonight, going a little hour later, but that's all good. So everybody can come on down, and we'll see you here. We'll wave the cover for you guys. Just mention Blake.
Yeah, just say the password tonight for free admission, no cover charge is TMT for Toxically Masculine Tuesday. Joined, of course, by the most toxically masculine member of the team, the incredible, the inimitable, the blurry tonight. For some reason, you're blurry. Steve Doran, the trail boss. Steve, how are you? Somewhere in the outback of Arkansas. How are you? What are you drinking?
I'm doing good, and I am drinking Mountain Valley spring water out of my copper water bottle.
Nice. And for those of you who don't know, Steve talked about this last week. This is how he beat the big C, was by being very disciplined about what he put into his body. So
and he says that, and then somebody gave me a bunch of these peppermint candies, and I just shoved a whole handful in my mouth.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be perfect, Steve. You just have to be really, really good. And you are a really, really good guy. Okay. So, there's so much to talk about. First of all, I just want to go around the horn and get everybody's general impressions of the inauguration. We'll go clockwise. Start with you. TV's going counterclockwise because, we'll go.
That's clockwise.
Yeah, I know, but it's backwards. This is clockwise. All right, TV's Blake Wally. What did you think of the inauguration yesterday? Where'd you watch it? What were your impressions, and how you feeling so far?
Well, I'm feeling fantastic. That was a great day. There was a lot of different events going on. Just a good. It was a holiday as well. So I just got to hang out here in Tennessee, east of California, and take in as much of it as I could. Different balls, different ceremonies, different events, but it was all great, especially with the signings and everything. They got business done. They had fun. There was dancing, a lot of good stuff. Epic day. I'm so happy to be American again, and we're back. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I mean, Trump talking about the golden age of America is here in his inaugural speech. He also completely slammed Joe Biden and Barack Obama and George Bush. They couldn't do a fucking thing about it. They're sitting right behind him. They all want him dead. They can't do a damn thing about it. And he just slammed them. Steve, what did you think of the inaugural speech? What did you think of yesterday in general? Did you watch any of the
I didn't watch any of the after stuff, but we're taking America back. But one of the things that, I constantly keep in mind, and I tell people that I talk to all the time, as much as I am ecstatic about what's going on and how we are moving forward, not only with the presidency, but as Americans, we cannot let our guard down, and we have to continue to be vigilant with everything that's going on. Because let's face reality, the deep state is not going to go away quietly. So we have to continue to pursue things like we were prior to the election. And, again, it's just one step in the right direction, but we have many steps that we have to take.
Yeah. It's like Steve Bannon said in 2017, look, they're not just going to give you your country back. You're going to have to take it. And I think we really need to move forward on that. I mean, we have to crush this. We have to crush this opposition in the sense of unconditional surrender. And if we have to use nukes, we have to use nukes like we did on Imperial Japan. Dr. Brooks Agnew, what did you think of the festivities yesterday? How did you feel about it? And do you think it is 100% that they moved everything inside, not because of the weather, but because of the assassination probability?
88% for sure, because it was cold, really cold in DC, and the wind was blowing. So if you put 1 million people out there in that cold with no porta potties, no way to get warm, you're going to have frostbite, all kinds of problems. People will have health problems out there. Trump did the right thing, but there were people all over DC. I had a friend on the ground. He went to the congressional arena. He stayed 10 hours and gave me almost real time what was going on the floor, and I was watching it on Right Side Broadcasting. I thought the actual inauguration was a little unrehearsed. Of course, they'd all moved everything and didn't get a chance. Melania showed up late with the Bible, so he took his oath without a Bible. The music didn't work for the singing of the America the Beautiful, so she sang it a cappella and did a wonderful job.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
The thing that amazed me is that the inauguration speech sounded a little bit like a mini rally where he was going over the same points. Yeah, he had a teleprompter, but he always throws those little things in. And everything was a left jab and a right hook and a left jab and a right hook. And the place was electric, absolutely electric. So I think it was a great power move. Now, if we were all sitting back going, wouldn't it be great if this is the perfect time to do a Mohammed bin Salman and make a mass arrest right now?
Yeah, that would have been the only thing that would have made it better is if it would have brought in all the troops at the end and carted them all away. To your point, it is interesting. A lot of people made a big deal out of the fact that Trump did not have his hand on the Bible. And I said, well, I was just on a show in Australia with an Australian guy, and I said, well, it could be that he had already taken an oath to the Republic, and this is an oath to the corporation, and he didn't want to do that. But it is clear that Roberts started the oath.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
Make you get over there.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
And look at the family. It's like, I guess we get better. Get over there in the picture.
Faithfully execute
The office of President of the United States.
the office
I'm trying to hit on Tiffany there. Where does his hand go?
And will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Now, I got to ask you this, Brooks. I think you're going to be more the expert in this than anybody else. It seemed to me that Vance, who got the vice president, gets inaugurated first, but the Constitution says at 12 noon you have to be inaugurated. That means by 12:01 you have to be done, theoretically, for it to be a legal oath of office. Do you think that they just took too much time or something with Vance, or and was Roberts rushing to make sure they got done by 12:01? What do you think was going on there? Because why didn't Trump put his hat on the Bible after Melania got there? Maybe he was totally focused on what he was doing, but
I think that normally when you have something like that, you have a rehearsal and you have maybe a dress rehearsal or a dry rehearsal. So okay, this happens. This happens. They didn't have that. It was obvious that didn't happen, and everybody kind of stood up and got where they needed to be a little bit late. But Roberts just rushed it, and Trump didn't get a chance to put his hand on the Bible because Melania didn't show up with the Bibles in time. But it was just like there was supposed to be like 15 seconds of small talk between Roberts and Trump, and that didn't happen. He went right into it, and that caught everybody off guard.
I'm just wondering what the motivation is. Steve, any thoughts on that? You're a constitutionalist. You have to be because you were a sheriff. So what do you know about this, and what do you think about what was going on there?
Well, I mean, I just think it was poor planning, and that they should have really done a better job at getting things together. I mean, the fact that, a Bible had to be brought in by somebody, it should have been there prior to anything even taking place. So I just think, my personal opinion, just poor planning.
Okay, just poor planning. Blake, any thoughts on your part as to what was going on there? Or because we've had a thing before where Barack Obama took the oath, but he recited the wrong oath. This is in 2008, I think, or 2012. He recited the wrong oath, and it turns out that when he took the oath, it was under what's called a void of course moon, which is a very bad sign in astrology. Any enterprise that's begun under a void of course moon will fail. It will not come to fruition. And he thinks that Sean David Morton, my friend, the late Sean David Morton, said that's why he said a week before they're going to screw up the oath. They're going to have to take it again 6 or 8 hours later when the void of course moon is passed. And that's exactly what they did. Do you think there's anything weird like that going on? Or was it just Roberts was like, I got to get this done by 12:01? What do you think?
I hope so. That would be a way cooler story. But I guess I'm going to have to go with the disorganized narrative, simply because, like as Brooks said, maybe they didn't have a rehearsal, because not only that, but the DJ debacle, but then it led to a good moment with Carrie Underwood, as you mentioned too, because she got to do a cappella. But that was another snafu in that day. So I will just say it was all disorganized, impromptu, and they did the best they could, but they definitely botched a few parts.
Yeah, it was really.
Well, and the thing is, let's face it, he was already confirmed. Typically, when you swear people in, like, even deputy sheriffs, like when you're swearing in, your staff, they're sworn in before you swear them in. It's just the public face so that everybody sees them being sworn in, but they're sworn in and in office before you ever see their face.
Yeah, it's
in public. So I think it's probably the same thing.
It's really interesting because sworn. Everybody started.
It was just what we were seeing was the public.
Yeah, it is really interesting because everyone in government was reacting. I don't know. Can you guys see me, Brooke?
Yes. It's Steve. I think his the video is a little wonky, so I'm going to assume there's got to be you might want to reset.
Okay, hey, I'm gonna go off and I'm gonna come back on my phone. I'll be back.
Okay, sounds fine.
I'm gonna use my phone signal.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So where were we with that? Yeah, it was interesting because everybody in the government was acting as if Trump was already president before he took the oath.
Yeah.
As soon as Milley was out the door at the Pentagon, they took his portrait off the wall before Trump had ever been sworn in. They didn't even know for sure he was going to fire Milley at that point, but of course he did. And I'm really curious about that, like how everybody was reacting to this as if as if he was already president before he was president. That's kind of unusual, is it not, Brooks?
Well, it is very unusual. And, there was a big secret there in that little group that was right there, that Biden, just a few minutes before that, had pardoned his entire family with this blanket pardon, which we go into that a little bit later. But as far as the actual meaning of a pardon and the validity of it, believe me, I've talked to the top people that I can talk to, and they say it's absolutely solid. It's irreversible. No one can do anything about it. I have my doubts about that. But Biden was standing there with a secret that he had pardoned his whole family right before that inauguration, like minutes before it.
Yeah, I think Trump didn't even know.
No.
Pardon the entire family when he took the oath of office. He didn't find out till later. At least he intimated that. He intimated that a little bit earlier. Okay, a couple things more that I want to get to. As long as we're waiting for Steve, let's go into. Okay, we're in the right tab. All right, let's go take a look at something that happened yesterday at one of the inaugural balls, which let me get Steve back on here. Oh my gosh, that's much better. Look at how great you look.
Yeah, we have a really bad ice storm going on right now. It's probably affecting the.
Yeah, it's snowing outside here too.
All right, so you didn't miss anything. We just talked about how the whole government was kind of reacting as if Trump was president before he became president, and thank God they certainly seem to be relieved. But something else happened last night at one of the inaugural balls. I guess Elon Musk was there. Might have been the military ball, and gave a little bit of a speech. And then this happened, and the left is losing their shit over this. How ridiculous! This is so ridiculous you won't even. What the left is saying is that Elon Musk was giving a Nazi salute, right? Let's go ahead and get that. Yep. Okay. No, right? Because in the context of this, right before this and right after this, he said, "I love you guys. You can have my heart anytime, or I'm giving you my heart." That's what he was doing. And all like legitimate newspaper, formerly legitimate, like AP, they all said he gave a fascist salute at the Trump rally or a celebration. It's absolute bull fucking shit. And Brooks, are they so goddamn stupid that they actually think this shit is going to work in this day and age after what already happened?
They're not stupid. This is by design. They're looking for anything to stop this momentum.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not going to stop it. Steve, did you see this yesterday when they were covering it? I guess if you're not on Twitter, you wouldn't know that they were trying to make a big deal out of this, but they were. What do you think of that? I mean, I don't know. I can find the other clip where he says, "I my heart, you have my heart," and then he does that. It's ridiculous.
I am so tired of the woke agenda. I'm so tired of people making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm so tired. I mean, you can't even sneeze anymore and say, bless you, without somebody being offended. It's like it's like at this juncture in my life, I'm so sick of it. Whenever anybody gives me any grief, makes any kind of a comment, my automatic reaction is to shut them down because I've had it. I've had it with all of this nonsense, and I think the rest of the American people have too.
Yeah, I think that only reinforces Trump's support. Blake, what did you think of that issue, non-issue that was raised yesterday? And don't all the organizations that push this as if it was a, quote, fascist salute, doesn't that just completely discredit them? I mean, I think they should all lose their White House credentials, honestly, anybody who repeated that nonsense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They should be ashamed of themselves. That was, I think PBS was the one that first broke that, and then they took it and they ran with it. And they're desperate. They're having a terrible day, and they just grabbed onto something. They want to believe that it's true, and they also want their readers and their followers to also believe it. But it was another ridiculous hoax. I mean, it's hilarious on one level, but it's also really sad that people, either want to believe this or are dumb enough to believe it. But there's also the fact that Elon, he's known as he's autistic, or he's kind of awkward. He is also from another country. He's from South Africa. I mean, there's no reason to go after it, but they have to get something. So that was it. They made a desperate move and it backfired. And it was,
it's ridiculous. And good evening to you too, ED47 from the future 51st state. It's great to have you here from British Columbia. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm gonna get hats made with a maple leaf and 51 in there. And I have a friend in Australia, Wolverine and Carrie. I'm gonna send them t-shirts that have the Australia outline with 52 on there, because you're going to be part of the U.S. by the time it's all over. All right. After that, Trump then sat down and signed a bunch of executive orders. The awesome thing was he signed the executive orders at Capital One Arena. He went to the arena. I saw Rob Schneider and his epically hot Latino wife there. They were the first people. Trump comes up and he goes, "Hey, Rob, how you doing?" And they were the first two people as he came down the stairs. And he signed these executive orders in front of the entire crowd. It was an epic troll in my mind. The first one he signed, I think it rescinded 78 Biden executive orders. Just boom, they are rescinded. And then he signed a bunch of important ones, not the January 6th one, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but he signed one of the ones that took away the security clearances of 51 members of the intelligence agency, including people like John Bolton and people like Clapper.
John Brennan.
Their security clearances, Brennan, were revoked. And he was questioned about that today during a press event where he took some questions. Let's fly over there and have a look at his answer. Why'd you do that, Mr. President?
Bolton's security clearance, sir.
Because I think that was enough time. It's we take a job. You take a job. You want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well, because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger. He's the one that got us involved, along with Cheney and a couple of others, convinced Bush, which was a terrible decision, to blow up the Middle East. We blew up the Middle East and we left. We got nothing out of it except a lot of death. We killed a lot of people, and John Bolton was, one of those guys, a stupid guy. But no, you can't have that for life. You shouldn't expect it for life.
And then after that, Trump went on to revoke Secret Service protection for John Bolton and Anthony Fauci and people like that. Brooks, what do you think that means? Anything significant about? Well, let's go to Steve first. Your thumbs up. And Steve, let's hear from you first. What do you think?
Well, first of all, they don't rate Secret Service protection. These are just civilians. They're in civilian positions that are typically not dangerous. I mean, their lives are in no danger. The only reason their lives are in danger now is because of the mass murders that they committed against the American people, and they're running scared. They have no right to any of it. And in fact, Mr. Fauci made billions of dollars off of the American people. He and his wife let him pay for his own security, and let him use people like, Wackenhut or whoever's out there today, so that, they don't have any special privileges to carry guns and that type of thing, and let him live in fear. I mean, I hope he does live in fear. I hope he lives in fear every minute of every day till the day he dies. And the same goes for the rest of these people who committed these atrocities against us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Brooks, go ahead.
Well, I feel the same way. This Secret Service was abused as kind of a private security for Biden's what I call the gang of criminals. They had death on their hands. They had laundered money on their hands, and people were aware of it, and people were mad about it. And so, Biden just gave them Secret Service protection. And the Secret Service hated it. The members of the Secret Service had to guard these evil pukes. They hated it, and it downgraded the entire service.
You know what? I would be willing. I'm sorry to interrupt, Brooks, but I would be willing to send all those DEI hires over there.
Yeah.
I hear there's a fire chief that needs a job.
Yeah, there you go. So Blake, shouldn't these guys have had their clearances revoked long ago? I mean, when I had a security clearance at a couple of different programs, it was revoked the second I walked out.
Absolutely,
or Grumman or wherever I was. Shouldn't that be the case with all government employees? Because if you give them that, basically they keep their clearances. So guess what? They can write books and profit from their access. So isn't that just another sign of corruption?
Yeah, it certainly could, and they clearly were abusing those privileges. So maybe for the rank and file, I can see absolutely. You're sorry, you're done. You think like the heads. I mean, these are some heavy hitters here: Bolton, Hayden, Clapper, Bolton, that CIA, NSA. Like you'd think maybe they would keep their clearance and that they would be incorruptible, but they certainly that wasn't the case. They all knowingly perpetuated and gave credibility to a massive lie and blamed a foreign adversary on top of it. It was blatant election interference, and the consequences for their actions. They have to take it. This is it's treasonous. So
yeah,
well, they don't need you need a security clearance for life. There's no reason for it. It's like you said, Mike. When I left government service, and I had the highest security clearance you can get, the day I left, it was done. Right, because I wasn't working there anymore. If I needed to come back, which I did come back on multiple occasions, should I need that clearance, they just reinstate it. There's no reason to have a lifetime clearance where you can walk in to federal facilities on a whim when you feel like it and look over whatever's going on. That is absolutely ridiculous, and that's the whole reason you have a security clearance, so that those types of things do not occur.
Yep, I agree with you, Steve. And it's like there's no reason that these lifetime profiteers. Don't tell me John Bolton isn't getting paid on the back end by all the defense companies that are making money off all the wars he perpetrates. Speaking of people who have blood on their hands. So, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I think Trump did the right thing. One thing I'm curious about, did any of you guys see any sign of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. yesterday anywhere? I didn't see him at the inauguration. I didn't see him in any of the balls. I didn't see him at Capital One. And do you have any thoughts on what that might mean? I'll have to check on it in a second. But do you have any thoughts on what that might mean?
Designated survivor?
Oh, I never thought of that.
I'm trying to remember. I think I recall him standing with his wife, but I'm not 100% if it was from yesterday. That is curious. He should have had a more prominent role. I'm also move the Vivek Ramaswamy from the. I guess that's another story too. I don't know about that.
Yeah. I'm checking his Twitter, and there's no update since the 27th of December, which is fair enough. Okay, so I'll look into that. I just want to know if anybody saw him there because I didn't notice him anywhere. If you saw him with his wife, you probably saw him with him. I'm sure he was at one of the balls. It would make sense. All right, one of the first things President Trump did is he and this is going to get really interesting. He pardoned all of the January 6th political prisoners out of the Stalin-esque gulags. And as far as we know, as of this moment, there are still some being held deliberately in the DC jails. If I'm the president, I would have sent in the military to the Bastille at gunpoint to remove those people. And if the police tried to resist, I'd say, shoot him in the head. And I'd go get the mayor of DC. But that's just me. I'm a little more reactive than Donald Trump is. Boy Dog says RFK was there. Did he possibly go up for his hearing in front of the Senate yesterday? No, there was none of that stuff was going on yesterday. Everybody was at the inauguration. So maybe it was sort of a designated survivor thing. You never know. Even though he's not an approved member of the cabinet yet. So anyway, at the January 6th stuff, President Trump signed an executive order pardoning basically all of the January 6th political prisoners. Let's watch a little video on that one.
Mutations in there where we're doing further research. Nice to see you again. So this is a big one. Anything you want to explain about this? We hope they get them. We hope they come out tonight, frankly. They're expecting it. Approximately 1,500 people. Six commutations.
Were there any cases you did not commute or pardon people?
We're looking at different things, but the commutations would be the ones that we'll take a look, and maybe it'll stay that way. Mutations in there.
Okay, so these are the 1,500 hostages. I got this. This is as an example of how just how egregious this was. This is off the side of a girl calls herself American AF. She and her now husband were arrested 2 years after January 6th. You know what they did? They opened the doors. They walked into the Capitol at the invitation of the Capitol Police, and then the Capitol Police tear gassed the Capitol. So there's no way they could get back out without the tear gas. But guess what? They left gas masks sitting on the tables just inside the door. So guess what these two people did? They pick up the gas masks, they put them on, walked through the tear gas, and then gave the gas mask back to the police. And for that, they were, in their case, they were lucky. They were put on house arrest for like 6 months or something like that. And honestly, the only reason I started following her on Twitter, I didn't know she was a January 6th political prisoner. It's because she had an OnlyFans. So anyway, but let's be honest. But this is an example of what a complete setup January 6th is, and doesn't it make you want to puke, Steve Doran? I mean, if you're a cop and you're deliberately entrapping somebody, you're not really a fucking cop, are you?
No. The reality is that you take an oath to uphold the Constitution, and your job is not to come to a conclusion and make the evidence fit. Your job is not to find the person guilty. Your job is not to prosecute the person. Your job is to collect the evidence and turn that over to the prosecutor and let the system work it out. And what they've done here is just, it is one of the biggest, I mean, we have the federal justice system is one of the most corrupt systems in the world, right? Because they use the indictment system. So you can indict a bologna sandwich. It actually has been done where, you know, a prosecutor's gone before the grand jury and got them to indict a bologna sandwich for taking countless lives because it shot their cholesterol levels too high. And so, you know, so you have a system where people are being held, right? Being held without evidence to convict. They're not in the process of being prosecuted. They are exactly what you said they are. They are political prisoners, and that is something that should never, ever, ever happen in the United States of America. That's the kind of crap that happens in China and communist bloc countries. That is not what happens here. So, you know, we need some major changes in the system, and everybody who was part of any of that needs to pay in some way. And everybody, and I know, you know, Biden gave him the blanket pardon. However, there are other ways to go after him, and there are other ways to get him. And I hope they use those means.
Well, yeah, I mean, here's what I think is I think every cop, every commander of a precinct, every clerk who was involved with passing paperwork, every judge, every typist, everybody who was involved in these court orders and rounding these people up for these political persecutions, again, right down to the court stenographer who maybe typed out the order that the judge gave her, should all go to jail for exactly as long as the longest imprisoned January 6th prisoner. Every single
double it.
That's
double it.
Maybe even double it. So this never ever fucking happens.
Well, not only double it, but make them pay for their stay on top of it.
Brooks, thoughts on the January 6th stuff? And again, it's still going on because again, they're still trying to keep these people prisoner. And I guess there's rumors there's visible wounds on some of these people from being tortured by these bastards. Those guys should be drawn and quartered on the Capitol steps, in my opinion. The cops.
Yeah, there's several of them got beat up because they left their cells last night, and we're heading for the doors, and there were people outside waiting for them, and they forced them back in their cells and beat them up. So this actually happened last night. Listen, they were denied due process, so they didn't see attorneys, they couldn't see their families, they didn't get any bail, none of that stuff. And they capture them all under a very obscure rule called Sarbanes-Oxley, which is supposed to be reserved for corporations to preserve their paperwork so that when Congress goes to prosecute them, they don't inhibit the investigation. That's what Sarbanes-Oxley is for.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that they were inside the building, they were inhibiting official government procedure, but it was all trumped up. So not only should they be pardoned, but they should be compensated $10,000 for every single day that they were behind bars. And that money should come from the J6 committee budget. And if that budget's exhausted, then they need to go after the personal retirement money of the J6 committee themselves.
Hey, that's
how you stop it from happening again.
Let's take it out of all their pensions. Let's make them pay all of the prisoners. That's a great idea. TV's Blake Wally. I imagine you guys covered this on the Next Level News today, or on Agree to Disagree. Any further thoughts on the January 6th situation? And how mad does it make you that these people are still not free a day after they've been pardoned?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know how the timeline works. Presidents offer pardons, but I've never followed up on that. So it's like they have to do the paperwork. Is it within 24 hours? Is it within a week? I don't know how that procedure works, and maybe it varies by state. Now, some of these guys were in different states. Some got out, some did not, and a lot of them aren't in DC. And there's still, as far as I know, at least within a few hours, that there were people gathered outside the gulag. They should be let out. And any of these guys that were like beaten up by the guards for trying to get out, I mean, those guys should really throw the book at those guys. And I agree with you, Mike. Anybody involved with this, I'll give some leniency to the stenographers, but yeah, everybody that knew what they were doing and putting innocent people away to try to frame a narrative needs to have severe punishment coming their way for this atrocity on the justice system.
Oh, I'm not giving any leniency to the stenographers. You know what? If you had any fucking principles, if you were a real fucking American, you would have said, Judge, this is blatantly political and it's illegal, and I'm not going to be a part of it, so I quit. That's what you do. You have to have principles.
Right.
And we don't teach morals and principles in this country anymore, Blake. And I love you to death, man. But I think you got to punish everybody. Well, no homo. You got to punish everybody right down to the bottom level. This is a toxically masculine show. If you don't like no homo, get off my channel. So I think this is a kind of thing that in the 1950s or the 60s or even the 70s or even the 80s, people would have done that. A court stenographer would have said, gosh, Your Honor, this is completely unethical and unconstitutional, and I'm not going to be part of it. We don't have those kind of principles anymore.
Yeah.
And it's time to come back, bring them back. And, we have OnlyFans now. So it's time to have higher standards of expectation for everyone in this country. Steve, you had a thought, and so did Brooks.
No, I was just, like I said, it literally, when I say this, and this is not for dramatic effect, when I look at the way that they railroaded Trump, when I look at the way they railroaded the average American citizen, when I look at the way that they turned concerned parents into terrorists, I mean, I literally get physically sick to my stomach. It makes me want to throw up that we have degraded to this point. It boggles my mind, and it boggles my mind that the American citizens aren't literally like rioting and going down to the courthouse like they would have in
Storm.
the late 1800s, early 1900s, storm the court. I'd go, we're not tolerating this. Set these people free. And we've got people who agree, not only don't go against it, they think it's great.
Storm the Bastille. Yeah. And put everybody there to the guillotine. Brooks, did I say that out loud? Go ahead.
Well, you contrast this with the 8,097 pardons that Biden gave.
Right.
And not only did he say, we're going to pardon them for anything they might have done in the 10 years between this period and this period. And by the way, we're not saying that they did any crime.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at Article 2, Section 2, you have to be accused of a crime and maybe even convicted. And then the president can pardon you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't pardon people for not doing a crime.
Right. We're going to the pardons next, and we'll talk about that. It's a very important detail. I just wanted to, before we get to that, I wanted to share that we found Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Apparently there was a Maha Ball last night, Make America Healthy Again Ball, that he hosted, an inaugural ball, and that's the other ones. And I'll be honest, the news networks I watched, I think it was mostly Fox, just didn't cover this ball. But here's a little clip.
Carol, my entire family, and we're going to go out and make America healthy again.
Okay. So that's where Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was last night, and why he appeared to be scarce, although I still didn't see him at the actual inauguration, although I'm sure he was in the room. So, yeah, that brings us to the next thing that we were going to talk about, Brooks, which is that Biden has pretty much pardoned everybody in his entire Biden crime family. Let's see.
Except for Hillary.
Except for Hillary and the Vindmans, and he forgot to pardon himself. Let's see. I don't have a good video here, but all right. So let's just go over it. You were on a roll. By the way, this is really interesting because you brought up the point, Brooks, that if you blanket pardon someone for anything they might have done, which, by the way, it's not clear from the Constitution you can even do that. They kept accusing Trump that he was going to do that. And let's play a clip. Let's play a clip of Democrats talking about that back in 2020, when they were thinking Donald Trump was going to do such a thing. Let's actually play that sucker and see what the Democrats had to say about it 4 years ago.
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent and just worried about outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. If you haven't done anything wrong, you sit there and go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
If he pardons people preemptively, he's essentially telling the public that these people have committed crimes. And we may not be aware of what they are, but the pardon is clear evidence that crimes have been committed.
I imagine if he decides to issue these preemptive pardons, it will be cast in a way that he is protecting his family and protecting their reputations from, villainous exterior forces that are against him.
First off, we should just take a deep breath and acknowledge the audacity of a president who's so clearly concerned about his own criminal culpability and that of his family members that pardons are a major obsession with him.
The idea of a kind of prospective pardon, this sort of permanent federal get-out-of-jail-free card, that seems to be what we're talking about in the case of this, right, with Giuliani and his 3 eldest children who, as far as we know, have not been convicted of a crime. Maybe they've committed a lot. And they don't want to face action. I don't know. It's weird. I wouldn't ask for a pardon. I don't think I deserve one because I don't think I've done anything criminal. But where does that come from? That concept that you can just kind of wave your magic pardon wand.
We have Tish James. We have Xavier Becerra. Mimi Rocha is literally my DA in my town. there will be opportunities to prosecute these people, regardless if they abuse the pardon power as they are thinking.
Okay, so it's very clear to me anyway, that Democrats are in agreement that a blanket pardon. Oh, there's Steve. The Democrats are in agreement that a blanket pardon is, in fact, an admission of guilt. So if that's true, then Anthony Fauci is guilty of crimes. Hunter Biden is guilty of crimes. Mark Milley is guilty of treason. And Brooks, you've already had a little bit of a say on this. I'm going to go to Steve. Let's talk about the case of what's going on there, Steve? There we go. What about the case of Mark Milley? Isn't it interesting because he committed treason when he warned the Chinese, told the Chinese he would warn them if Trump tried to start a war with them, which is absolutely insane anyway that Trump was going to do that. But let's ask this question: is treason even pardonable? I'm not sure it is. And secondly, do you think that there aren't other ways in the military code of justice to go after somebody like Mark Milley, who's a military traitor, or the Vindmans who are crying that they didn't get pardons? What do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, first of all, any criminal activity is pardonable. I mean, the long and the short of it is the president can pardon anybody he wants. Should he pardon somebody for that? Absolutely not. But there are other ways to go after them. Especially if they're connected with the military under the UCMJ. Again, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that they have gone after civilians using the UCMJ in the past for similar situations.
Okay. Where they avoid criminal prosecution. And Nancy would like to know, where can I purchase a copper bottle or similar one like Mr. Steve Doran has? Steve?
I will get a link to Mike.
Okay. We'll get a link to me, and I will post the link probably in the chat. Blake, do you think that these blanket pardons are going to stand up constitutionally? I'm sure Brooks will give us a lecture in a second, but what do you think?
I don't think they should. I think it should have some sort of limitations. I don't know how long this has been going on. I guess maybe I'm naive, but I thought, you had to be like charged with something or incarcerated already, and then you got your pardon. Never heard of these preemptive things. And yeah, it is an admission of guilt to some sort of criminal activity. And they don't want they're fearing retribution, but tough shit. I mean, they did the crime, so
yeah,
they have to face it. So, but hilarious hypocrisy of the video of them going back on what they were already preaching.
Well, the reality is, and even if you are given a pardon, you are still compelled to testify. So if I come to you and I ask you about your involvement in something, because you've been pardoned, you have to cooperate. You cannot say, oh, on the grounds it's going to incriminate me, because you're not incriminated, pal. You have to cooperate 100%. You have to tell the truth. You have to provide 100% of the information, or guess what? You can be charged again.
With a new crime that you weren't pardoned for. Exactly. So they've got all these guys by the balls. Blake.
Well, I'm going to say, one quick note. I did see a breaking news on Chip Roy, who was calling for Liz Cheney, Dr. Fauci, and Mark Milley to immediately testify before Congress to determine why they were pardoned. Actually, this is probably old news, but from yesterday.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's
at least
good.
Say something. Yeah. We need more clarity on all of this.
Exactly. But that's true. You can basically trap them into either spilling the beans on their criminal activity or creating a new crime and getting punished for it. So Brooks, who I noticed was not pardoned? Deborah Brooks was not pardoned.
That's right.
The Vindmans were not pardoned. Aren't the fall guys maybe being set up here? And by the way, Fauci, believe me, this is not the first time Fauci has committed genocide. He did it with the HIV virus back in the 80s. So he can still be charged with everything there because his pardon only goes back to 2014. But doesn't this clearly imply their guilt? And what do you think is going to happen to the other people on the periphery of this stuff? Because Deborah Birx absolutely forsook her duty to the American people with all the lies that she told.
Yes. And the main thing to think about here is, things in the Constitution get tested all the time because lawsuits get filed and it goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court can clarify items in the Constitution. This one about the president can pardon whomever he wants. He can do that. But that doesn't stop Congress or the Senate or the courts from bringing them in and asking them, did you do this crime? And they can't claim the fifth anymore. They'll have all the evidence. And yes, they can convict them in court, even though they're pardoned. And then the civil cases start for wrongful death.
Yep.
This is where you inflict upon them the one thing that they fear the most: poverty.
Yeah, that would be great. Basically, just break them financially. That would be hilarious to watch happen, although I'm not sure it would be justice for what they did. By the way, there is one little known executive order that President Trump signed last night, which is, I think, the most important one ever. And that is this one, where he made it okay to call people gay and retarded again. So everything that we say on this show is now okay. We can now call people gay and retarded again. That brings up another question. There was another EO about, there were all kinds of ones about the sovereignty of the states, which is reversing the Corporate Act of 1871. There is sovereignty of the individual, which will wipe out the New Deal if you take these things to their extreme. And there was another one about freedom of speech on the internet. Now, I don't know how much teeth that's going to have, but, you know, Jen and I got taken down yesterday. We were covering the inauguration for streaming a channel on YouTube by YouTube. We were literally streaming their channel, and they used that as an excuse to take us down and shut us up on YouTube. Do you think there's any hope, Brooks, that this stuff is going to end with these new executive orders? I haven't read that one in detail yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, when it comes to Google, they think they're bigger than law. Serious action is going to have to be taken against Google. YouTube, I think, has to be forced to, or Google has to divest itself of YouTube, and YouTube needs to be able to stand on its own feet. YouTube's still the 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
Rumble is tiny compared to YouTube, and I don't know why, because Rumble doesn't censor anything except for blatant child porn or something like that. They'll censor that. But as far as what you want to say politically or anything like that in Rumble, they stand behind it. And they've had their lives threatened. I've communicated with the guys. They've definitely had a challenge. One of the guys got arrested in a foreign country, and he barely got away. So they're aware of
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. Okay, some other stuff happened today. Now, I live off in the foo-foo land. I do, I have my show with my psychic, who I love to death, Jennifer Fallaw, and we talk about currency resets and great global cataclysms, financial cataclysms, and honestly, it's all coming true. I mean, all this Jassara stuff is coming true, and they're all in these proposals Trump has made. But today he held a press conference on AI, and they're not going to use the term medbed. They're not, because everybody's talking about that, and it's a conspiracy theory that there's this alien technology out there that will cure all of your diseases and make you 30 years younger, and you'll get full erections again, and life will be great, right? I believe this technology exists and all this stuff, but I gotta play a clip for you guys from today's press conference, which is where Trump took the questions we've been using. He talked about something, and he called it Project Stargate, which I find a little bit weird. To be honest with you, well, hang on a second. Let me get it up there on the screen. I find that title a little bit weird, because the implication has always been that these medical technologies are alien in nature. But let's just listen to what the guy, it's being hidden under the mask of, we're going to use AI to cure diseases. Let's listen to what they said today. Tech CEOs talk about Stargate investment.
One of the most exciting things we're working on, using the tools that Sam and Mossad are providing, is a cancer vaccine.
Audio is pretty wonky.
I'm doing my best.
Okay.
All of our cancers, cancer tumors, little
I was thinking of that link, by the way, Mike.
float around in your blood. So you can do early cancer detection. If you can do using AI, you can do early cancer detection with a blood test. And using AI to look at the blood test, you can find the cancers that are actually seriously threatening the person. So we can, again, cancer diagnosis using AI has the promise of just being a simple blood test. Then beyond that, once we gene sequence that cancer tumor, you can then vaccinate the person, design a vaccine for every individual person to vaccinate them against that cancer. And you can make that vaccine, that mRNA vaccine, you can make that robotically, again using AI, in about 48 hours. So imagine early cancer detection, the development of a cancer vaccine for your particular cancer aimed at you, and have that vaccine available in 48 hours. This is the promise of AI and the promise of the future.
Okay, so when Donald Trump says we are entering the golden age, this is the kind of shit he's talking about. And given that he's put this press conference on the day after his inauguration, he already knew about all of this. But here's my question, and you can talk about any aspect of this you want. I believe the med beds are real. I'm not saying they're real, but what I'm saying is if you wanted to bring this technology out and you wanted the perfect cover for it, you would come up with, this is a new AI machine. It's just going to scan you. And when it scans you, it actually makes you healthy again. So am I crazy making that leap with Project Stargate here, Brooks? Or do you think this really might be something?
I think it's crazy. I think there is scanning technology, and I think there are frequencies that could do things like, shatter bacteria and viruses. But as far as putting you back to your peak DNA after an accident or after an illness or during an illness, I don't think that technology exists.
Okay. All right. Steve, you are a cancer survivor, a cancer winner. You kicked its shit out of cancer. Would you, if they offered you this and they said, well, you still got some trace elements here, we can get rid of them all. If they offered you this technology, and it turned out not to be a med bed, but if they offered you this technology, would you be interested in trying it? And what do you think about it as a treatment going forward to actually, they're saying they're going to sequence the DNA of your cancer and create, they're calling it a vaccine, but it's really more of a treatment that will destroy that specific cell, those specific cells in your body?
I would say no. And the reason I say no is because, like anything else, they invent something like this and then they use it on people. And then, 3 years down the road, you get some hideous ass cancer or some ridiculous side effect to it. And the reality is, if you stay away from eating chemicals, if you eat good food, if you, maintain a healthy lifestyle, and I don't even mean, overly healthy, but if you just watch what you do, you can pretty much do the same thing. So why do I want to get electronics involved?
Okay. That makes a certain amount of sense. Blake, what do you think about this new announcement? And obviously it's a centerpiece of what Trump wants to do going forward, or he wouldn't have had it on this. This is his first press event of his presidency, of his new presidency. Do you think this has any promise? And what if you were diagnosed with, dick cancer or something? Would you go have? I'm just kidding. We know not going to wish that on Blake. Would you consider a treatment like this? Would you be willing to be a guinea pig?
I don't know if I want to be the guinea pig or the pioneer in some of this stuff. I'll let some of the older people go first that have nothing left to lose. Perhaps we'll test it with them. I sincerely hope that technology does exist and all this stuff comes true, whether it's Jasara or med beds or what have you. I'd be a little skeptical of it coming out, of course, during this last administration, but things are opening up. And Trump built this Stargate thing up. I still have to look more into it. But AI, if it could be used responsibly, could solve a ton of problems. And there are certainly suppressed technologies. Some speculate the military might be 30 years ahead of the general public with what they actually have.
Right.
We even have alien technology that they've reverse engineered. We don't know what they actually have. But
yeah, I mean, I'm sure I don't trust alien technology if that's what they told me the source was. But
you guys got a lot of faith in the military.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Aspects of the military, you know, again, you're a veteran. Brooks, you're a veteran, aren't you?
Yeah.
And you know, okay, I
all
hear
they're
you.
really concerned
like
with now
way
is how
too
fast
much-
can we get
way
the
too much
warfighter back into the field.
Okay. Well, the last issue I want to cover tonight, and there were so many we could have talked about. The last one I want to cover tonight is, well, let's just go to Tom Homan, the new czar of deportations, and listen to what he had to say just about an hour or two ago on, what is it, Fox News or something. Let's go there. And
based on your initial schedule, that today roundups of criminal illegal aliens in the process of deporting them would begin. That seems to have been put on hold for a little while. When can we expect that to happen? Where will it begin?
No, it started.
It started.
ICE teams are out there as of today. We gave them the direction to prioritize public safety threats that we're looking for. So we've been working up the target list. There was some discussion about Chicago because the specific operational plan was released. So we had to look at and reevaluate, does this raise officer safety concerns? And it does. But we've addressed that, and teams are out there effective today.
Based on your initial schedule, that today roundups of criminal...
Yeah, I think that that might have been from yesterday. I think that the Chicago thing was a deliberate leak to get everybody focused on that, because I understand. I think somebody told me that an operation had begun in El Paso, Texas today, that there were hundreds of ICE officers on the ground carrying out an operation there. Blake, does this make you excited? Are you ready to get rid of these people, get them out of the country, all these illegals, and you think this is really going to go down?
I wouldn't say excited. There are a lot of criminals that absolutely need to be deported. I feel bad for some of the women and children who are crying at the border. But I mean, I think they should have known that. They shouldn't have made the trek. And the Biden administration is responsible for doing that. I'm hoping maybe if there's some way to filter out and keep some of the good ones, I would be for it. But they have to come in. There's going to be a proper way to come through here, which they ignored all of that. So, and they let this fester. They pretended it wasn't a crisis. There are a ton of bad actors that absolutely need to be rounded up and shipped out of here. So it's a security issue.
Yeah. Brooks, go ahead.
The three that are going to happen very fast, and we're talking about 4.4 million illegals that'll be gone within 90 days. 90 days. First are the ones that are incarcerated. There's about 67,000 of them in our prison system. Then there are the ones that have been in our prison system and have been released, and they should be deported as well. So that altogether is about 280,000. Those are the ones that are in or have been in our criminal system. The next group are the ones that have outlasted their asylum. They've had their asylum hearings. They've been determined to not qualify, and they need to leave. They overstayed. They know where they are. They know who they are. They need to pick them all up and get them out. That gets you to about 2.1. So where's the other 1.9 million that are staying in the hotels? They're not working. They're getting money to live. They're getting money, free rent. They're doing nothing. And they're from over 140 different countries. Gather them all up, put them back on the buses and planes, and get them out. That's 4 million, and it could be done in 90 days.
Wow, that's great. Steve, what are your thoughts about the deportation process? And Jacqueline just said there was a raid, a nice sting in San Diego this morning. So apparently it is happening. It's in motion.
Well, first of all, I don't feel sorry for any of them. They're all criminals. Every one of them. If you come into the United States illegally, you are a criminal. Doesn't matter what sex you are. Doesn't matter, how old you are. You come in illegally, you are a criminal. You did not come in and you did not, go through the proper procedure to get here, which means you need to go back. Secondly, it's like instantaneously, in my opinion, the next thing that Trump needs to do is cut off all the monies that are going to these people. So revoke the debit cards, make them invalid. Don't put any more money on them. Tell the hotels where they're staying. Tell all these facilities that are being used, you're not getting a penny. So if you want to keep these people, it's on your dime because we're not paying you to do it. So all of that needs to stop instantaneously, not in a week, not in a month, immediately. As soon as they lose their money, as soon as they don't have a place to stay, they're going to start wanting to go back. They're going to try to find ways to get back across the border because they will have no way to take care of themselves or feed themselves. And there'll be, in my opinion, along with the deportations, mass exoduses, because if you can't eat, you can't survive. If you can't, especially the ones in the colder climates, they got to get out of here. So, I don't feel sorry for any of them. I know that, I do. Well, let me put it this way. I do feel very sorry for the children, meaning that they have to go through this because their parents are idiots and came here illegally. So I do feel sorry for the children. But also, it's gonna plug the hole with the drugs coming in this country. It's gonna assist in stopping the sex trafficking that's going on. Hopefully, it will get us additional leads to go after these sex traffickers. And that's another thing I'd like to see, the death penalty for those pieces of shit. But so a lot of the things that are going on right now, the deportations are positive from the perspective we're going to gain intel to go after some of these bad actors that should have been taken out years ago.
Right. By the way, I just want to state. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brooks. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they also need to marshal the special forces and go down into Mexico and destroy every bit of that fentanyl manufacturing operation.
Well,
all the money right back to where it leads.
He also, again, this is another thing we could talk about. He declared the cartels terrorist organizations that we can therefore go to war against. We went to war against the Barbary pirates back in the 1800s. You can declare war on the cartels and send the military down there and clean all that shit up. So it's like, yeah, we've got that now. Trump also ended birthright citizenship.
Yeah, finally.
That's another thing that, again, let's just listen to what he said about that real quick.
To the definition of birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment of the United States?
That's a good one. Birthright. That's a big one.
What about that one in the courts? That one is likely to be challenged.
Could be. We think we have good grounds.
By the way, this isn't the first time this has happened where they've gotten rid of the birthright citizenship.
It's ridiculous. We're the only country in the world that does this with birthright, as you know. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. But, we'll see. We have very good grounds. People have wanted to do this for decades.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a proclamation declaring a national emergency.
Okay. So
this next order relates to the definition of
the interesting thing about this is that now there's been an act introduced in Congress to actually codify this into federal law, to pass a law to get rid of birthright citizenship. And as President Trump pointed out, we're the only country that does it. Let's stop doing it. You do not get citizenship if you have kids here, and it kicks in 30 days. It's funny. They tried to basically, there's a bunch of libtards trying to say, oh, well, God, Trump is so stupid. Now J.D. Vance's wife is going to have to be kicked out of the country. And they're like, no, it starts in 30 days. So what fucking idiots. Anyway, do you think this is a positive step in the right direction? And I hope we have the support to get the bill actually passed and signed. That would be great, wouldn't it, Brooks?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. This is a misinterpretation of the 14th Amendment. It says, when you're born here, you're a citizen. That is not true. It's not what it says. It says when you're born subject to our laws. And if you're born to an illegal alien, you are a citizen of the country you came from because you're subject to their laws.
Right.
So what this did is it birthed an entire industry where literally hundreds of thousands of pregnant Chinese women get on planes, fly to the United States, stay at a resort for a couple months, have a baby, and have a U.S. citizen. That ended. It's over.
Yep. And guys, if this stuff is pushed through as, if it's pushed through as a federal law, it's way harder to overturn, because if we have another stolen election in 2028, then the next president, can come in, Gavin Newsom or whoever can come in and rescind this executive order. So what this will do is it should not only discourage people from coming here, but it could also, if we can get a federal law passed, it can basically make it almost impossible to rescind the law. Therefore, the flow of illegals stops. Therefore, the flow of Democrat voters stops. Therefore, they'll never win another fucking national election ever. And Blake, wouldn't that be a good thing?
Yeah, because it started out as a humanitarian thing, and we're the richest country in the world, and if people are born here, sure, let's make them a U.S. citizen. But then it caught on, the word got out, and then they abused the shit out of it, and now we have to end it. And they did it to themselves, and they've been trying to use that against it as their new voting bloc any number of ways. And so, yeah, it's good.
I mean, if you're traveling with your parents in Europe and you happen to be born in Germany, that does not make you German.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if your parents were both citizens of, I don't know, Ireland as an example, right? You're not a Kraut then, right? I think it's also okay now under President Trump's executive order to call Germans Krauts again. We can call Germans Krauts, Japs. What else can we call people that is completely harmless? I don't know. Indians, whatever. And we can call you gay and retarded. I have the executive order to prove that. All right, guys. I'm done. I'm going to go have some pizza. I thank you guys for being here. Any last issues anybody wants to bring up? Steve, you got anything you want to say before we part? I think it's a pretty good start to the first 36 hours of the Trump presidency. What do you think?
Well, the thing I love about President Trump, honestly, is that, he doesn't wait around to get to work. I mean, that guy, as soon as he was sworn in, he's on it, and he's getting to work and doing and keeping his campaign promises. Let's face it. He's the only president in the history of the entire United States who did what he said he was going to do. The only one since the beginning of our country. So, it is refreshing to have him back in office, to have somebody who works, who likes to work, and who is going to get the job done. So, I just hope it continues. And I hope that, any roadblocks that would normally pop up just get, pushed over and out of the way immediately.
Yeah. Sorry, my cat, Miss Fluffy Muffy, is telling me it's time to end the show. But any final thoughts? One
thing I wanted to bring up, and it hasn't been mentioned for a long time. You never even heard the legacy media talk about this. And that's the SES, the Senior Executive Service. There are about 7,000 of these people. And these are basically no-show jobs for party leaders, former speakers, former RNC, DNC heads. These are people that know what's best for the party. These jobs pay between $80,000 and $240,000 a year, and most of it's north of $150,000. And it's a no-show job.
I want one of those.
You get that money for life.
Yeah.
Senior Executive Service. It was codified by Carter.
Yeah, we didn't even get into the balloon UFO video this week, guys. That was so ridiculous. It's crazy. And look, I'm just going to tell you, Mr. President, if anybody from your team is watching, you got the wrong people on your UFO committee. You need me and him at the very least to be on your committee. Blake, any final thoughts or anything you wanted to cover that we didn't get around to covering tonight?
No, I'm happy to be here. It's a great start. Historic and glorious day yesterday. American spirit seems to be reinvigorated. MAGA, and of course, Maha, Make America Healthy Again.
MAGA,
yeah, I'm here for it. So let the golden age begin. This is going to be a great new chapter in America.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up. Brooks?
I have one more small announcement. Very small. Last week, I took it upon myself to register to run for Senate in North Carolina against Tom Tillis. I'm putting together my principal campaign committee. Monday, we are making a decision on how to go forward. So my name is in the hat. Watch out, Tom Tillis. I'm coming for you.
And you didn't invite me to be on your campaign committee.
Well, I haven't put it together yet. I'm just talking to the guys right now.
All right, well, okay. But you haven't talked to me. I mean, I'm apparently not one of them. My opinions are not hurt or
Well,
anything.
I have to register my
Call me gay.
campaign account and all
Don't
that
call me
stuff.
gay. Well, you can now. You can call me gay and get away with it. Damn it. All right. Because of that new damned executive order. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up. I'm back tomorrow. Whiskey and Wisdom with the original Mark Z. And at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern Time, Tell the Truth Wednesday with me and Jennifer Falah. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We'll see you next week. Maybe we'll get to the egg balloon UFO story. I got a feeling it's going to be memory hold by then because so much shit is going to happen between now and next Tuesday that we're going to want to talk about. Stay tough, stay toxic, stay masculine. Ladies, go make us a sandwich. See you next time.